So Chris Christie went on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah recently, and Trevor Noah has been doing this thing where lately he interviews politicians and stuff. I'm not sure what's going on with his live studio audience, like whether he's just ditching that altogether at this point, or whether he's I don't know, the restrictions in New York, maybe enough people haven't taken the vaccine, he can't get enough people in the studio, or maybe they're just trying out a new format. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he's been interviewing people. He's interviewed a few Democrats. He's interviewed a lot of Republicans lately. Dan Crenshaw also had a segment on the Daily Show recently. And he did an interview with Chris Christie, who, by the way, has said he'll run against Trump in 2024. You should watch the whole interview. I'll link it below. Listen to what Chris Christie thinks about Joe Biden, why he thinks his approval rating is so low, and what he thinks he needs to do to get it up. This will just really tell you, the mindset of the average, conservative politician in Washington, D.C., and how it differs so much from the average mindset of the average American conservative who may be socially conservative but wants the government to actually work for them. So anyway, let's watch this clip, and then we'll respond to it.
Before I let you go, we've talked about Donald Trump. The last part of this book is what I find interesting: saving the Republican Party, also from the dangerous policies of Joe Biden. Now, you argue in the book that the problem with Joe Biden is that he ran as a unifier, and you say that he hasn't done that. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that he ran not only as a unifier, but as a moderate, right? Remember, he was the guy in the primaries that Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were all saying wasn't liberal enough.
Right.
He was too moderate. Now, all of a sudden, his policies are way left.
Well, but is it all of a sudden, though? If you remember, he did say at some point, if I win, we're going to put forward some of the most progressive policies this country's ever seen. He did say that.
But he didn't campaign. The theme of his campaign was not that. He was going to bring the country back together. You can't unify the country by going way left or way right, because most of the country is not way left or way right. And here's the worst thing a politician can do, Trevor. If you campaign one way and you govern against brand, and that's why his poll numbers are so low now, because independents who took a chance on him and voted for him are saying, that's not what we voted for. We didn't vote for this. We voted for you to bring the country together and to moderate the country. And he hasn't done that. And I think it's the single biggest mistake he's made so far, bigger than anything else he's done, because people don't know who he is anymore, who are the independents who voted for him.
Could there be an alternate answer to that? Could it be that he's doing badly because of all the circumstances around it? So could it be that he's doing badly because people are saying, we voted for you and you haven't gotten anything done, as opposed to what you're trying to get done? Could it be that people are saying, we're frustrated with the pandemic, you said you would handle it, and it hasn't just been handled it? It hasn't been handled. Gas prices are going up, inflation is going up. Couldn't it also be those things?
Well, some people would say that his policies have helped to create the gas price and the inflation increases and all the rest of that. And look,
but that's happening all over the world. So how could it be his policies?
But no, because America is still the most dominant economy in the world, and so when.
But it's not an island.
When it's the old story, right? When the American economy, gets the sniffles, the rest of the world gets a cold,
yes,
right?
Right.
So we know that we're still the driver of it. But here's the thing: it could also be Afghanistan.
Right. Yes,
and the awful way that he went out of there.
Yes, that is
I'm
true.
not saying this is my theory. I'm not saying that people can't have other theories as to why it's going on, Trevor. But what we can't deny is that a guy who was elected president with over 300 electoral votes, just a year ago, is now in a situation where his approval ratings are in the low 40s, upside down 12 or 15 points, depending on the polls, and it doesn't seem to be getting better anytime soon. And the real question is, Joe Biden, at 78 years old, does he have the political skills any longer to dig out of that hole? And I think that's what we're going to have to wait and see. I don't know. I'm skeptical about it. And I think he'd have been much better off if he had been the Joe Biden that he'd been all the years he was in the Senate and tried to bring the country together that way rather than try to be FDR.
We need Joe Biden to be the Joe Biden he was in Congress, not FDR. You can't make this shit up. So he said, we need you to be the Joe Biden who was in Congress. So in other words, we need you to be more like Bill Clinton. We need you to be more like Obama, George W. Bush, basically the standard presidents that we've had. As if he's not already like that. Joe Biden has not done anything radical. What radical thing has he done? Besides in the war in Afghanistan, that was the one thing that he did that was pretty radical. But other than that, everything he's done has been standard. What, stimulus checks? Trump gave out stimulus checks. So did George W. Bush, and I wouldn't exactly call those guys radical. But beyond that, if you take a look at what he said, oh, we don't need you to be FDR. FDR was the most popular president in American history. You know, arguably, maybe, I don't know, maybe Lincoln's more popular now, but like, this guy got elected president 4 times. When FDR was the president, Democrats held 80% of the seats in both houses. Because they actually did shit for people. They actually helped people. They did stuff for people. Social Security, Medicare, benefits, expanded benefits for people, raising the marginal tax rate. They helped people. And that's why he kept getting elected. That's why he got elected over and over again. And the fact that Christie, the thing about Christie that you have to respect whether you like him or not, he always says the quiet part out loud. He says what he feels. So he said, yeah, we don't need FDR. So basically what he's saying is, we don't need the FDR policies. We don't need to help people. Government shouldn't help people. That's what he wants Joe Biden to do. A government that doesn't help people. He said, oh, unify people. You need to unify people. I got news for you, bro. The Build Back Better agenda, when you poll the individual policies, they're popular. Childcare polls at, I think, 64%. I might be wrong about that. It's definitely in the 60s, but I'm not sure. Elder care polls at really high as well. Child tax credit polls at 52%. Nationwide. And these provisions are even popular amongst Republicans. So don't tell me that having a left agenda is unpopular. Oh, so basically, we shouldn't take care. If you say, oh, well, Biden's agenda is too radical, Build Back Better, then yeah, okay. But if you actually said it like individually, oh, we shouldn't take care of old people. They shouldn't have care. Preschool shouldn't be free. Parents should have to suck it up and pay for it, even if they're making minimum wage. And oh, by the way, there should be no expanded child tax credit. You shouldn't get a tax break for your kids. If you said that to people, they'd be like, even the most conservative people I know, my Republican friends are like, well, I don't think those things are ridiculous. People kind of need those things. See, this is what they do. Like, this is one of the things, and it's like, this is one of the things that makes me want to hit my head against the wall. Like, they're saying Biden's too far left. That's why he's polling bad. He's not left enough. Biden hasn't done shit for people. He hasn't done shit for anyone. I mean, sure, he ended the war in Afghanistan, but they're still bombing people, so did he really? And I mean, credit to him for pulling the troops out. But at the same time, it's like they're still bombing people in Afghanistan. They killed children. Like, so even that, he gets half credit for that. But what liberal things has he done? Nothing. Biden hasn't done anything for people. If anything, he hasn't delivered for people, and that's why people don't like him. Now, of course, your average American's not going to be like, oh, well, Republicans aren't going to deliver either, so I'm just not going to vote, or I'm going to vote for Democrats because at least they deliver a little bit better. No, they're going to, of course, flip to the other side because they're like, well, these guys aren't working. Maybe these guys will work because not everybody's into politics the way I am or the way you guys are who are listening. But let's be honest. Let's be real here. Joe Biden is not left. Joe Biden hasn't done anything liberal at all. Even his own policy, the Build Back Better policy, might be less than $1 trillion. And by the way, they keep saying, oh, $1 trillion, inflation. It's $1 trillion over the next 10 years. So it's basically $100 billion a year, which is less than what we spent on the military. Okay? So it's not that much money. It's really not in the grand scheme of things. But that's not even going to be $1 trillion. It might go under $1 trillion. You haven't delivered anything substantive for people. That's why his approval rate is so low. And COVID is ripping the country as well, which is not completely all his fault. But certainly the supply chain problem is causing prices to go up. They can definitely do something about that. They need to be fixing that, and he's not doing that. Like, the fact that you're saying, first of all, comparing Biden to FDR is an insult to FDR. He hasn't done anything liberal at all. Secondly, yes, he should be more like FDR. Because FDR did things for the people. He was super popular to the point where even Republicans were voting for FDR. I'll give you another one. Eisenhower, who was a Republican president, He raised taxes so high on rich people that the effective tax rate for rich people was about 50% above $2.3 million. The marginal tax rate was 86%. Now, of course, they weren't paying 86% of their income. It was more about like 50%. Above $2.3 million. But still, this is a Republican president, and Eisenhower was majorly popular. He won 2 terms. He was a super popular president, and if they hadn't instituted term limits, he probably would have won again. So when you do things that substantially improve the life of American people, you become popular. But people like Christie and, not just Republicans, but even Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard and, all these moderate conservative Democrats, because everyone thought Tulsi Gabbard was left. She was fake left. Anyway, Kamala Harris. These people think, we don't want to go too far to the left. You're not going far left enough. That's why you're losing. That's why you're going to keep losing. This is why the Democrats are going to lose in 2022 as well. They're going to lose. Okay? It's going to be a red wave. They're going to get wiped out. And guess what? If Donald Trump runs for president again, he might win. But if Mitt Romney runs, or Chris Christie, or Ron DeSantis, you can bet your ass that they're definitely going to win. Who's going to beat them? Kamala Harris? Mayor Pete? Joe Biden's corpse? Give me a fucking break. So, there you have it. Chris Christie's take on how Biden can raise his approval rating and, quote-unquote, bring the country together. It's fucking idiotic, I swear to God.